Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's discussion practice. We're diving deep into John Field's article on listening methodology and language teaching. And honestly, it's sparked some really interesting thoughts. So we can start with the big picture. What are the main takeaways from Phil's work? What can I say? Well, essentially, Phil traces the evolution of listening instruction. He highlights how we've moved from treating listening as just a sidekick, a tool for grammar practice, also to recognizing it as a crucial skill. It's its own right. He also points out the standardized lesson format that emerged, like pre-listening, extensive and intensive listening activities, and post-listening activities. And we don't have to forget that he also criticizes how, despite this changing, we are still failing short. I mean, the results that we as teachers are still getting the same results. He also argues that we are prioritizing testing over actual teaching and our lessons that really reflect how we listen in real life. For example, in classrooms, we focus on great listening ideas, control conversations and dialogues, and the activities that follow are related to that dialogue. But let's be honest, sometimes how does that dialogue applies in a real scenario in their students' real life? And he also advocates for more authentic material, strategic guessing, and interactive learning. So that is what I wanted to point out with the example before. Sometimes when we plan what we want our students to do, is more related to how to make it easy for us, the teacher, to assess those activities rather than being meaningful activities. And you know, these takeaways are really important because they for us to confront the tension that we face between structure and authenticity. Because in some subjects we teach, we need to follow a program, and in order to follow that program or accomplish that program, it's easier to use a specific material with specific activities that are pre-designed rather than applying other interactive strategies which take more time from the teacher to evaluate those activities. So it's easy to get caught up in the mechanics, the grammar rules. But in this case, Phil reminds us that language is about communication, and listening is a huge part of that. And then we need to transmit that message to our students. Now, how does it connect to the real world? Well, and let's think about it. Like when you're traveling in a foreign country, you don't get a script beforehand, right? You have to rely on whatever understanding you have of the language, of the culture, and then you use the context clues, you try to guess, you also use your body language, and those details that we forget in a classroom are a huge part of real life scenarios. And that is Field's approach, like the emphasis he makes. And personally, I've seen students struggle with the scripted dialogues because they want to learn it from memory, and once they get lost in one word, they forget the rest of the structure. And I try to to make them feel confident about what they're saying. That is not only that they need to focus on memorizing and then reciting, but using the language to express their own ideas. So in this way, they can gain confidence when they understand and when they can express themselves. And when they're given real podcasts with simplified tasks like listening key points, it's better than using those free activities for listening tasks. But of course, Field's ideas they raise some questions. How do we balance authenticity with accessibility for beginners? Or how do we address specific listening breakdowns like mishearing with forms? And what about technology? Can real-time subtitles enhances strategic listening, or do they undermine dependence? Well, those questions we need to think carefully about them. Like a specific thing here is like technology. How can we make technology our ally in the process and not as a rock in their path? In addition, another point to consider is the emphasis on interaction. Um, they collaborate great. What about the students that didn't like to participate because they are afraid of speaking and they say they don't understand when they listen? It's difficult for them to process the information. So how can we help our students in this way? And how can we apply these ideas to other fields? Uh, well, in healthcare, for example, or professionals, they need to gather information from the patient under pressure, and that makes it difficult to interpret. Like they get fragments of information and then they have to analyze and then they have to give their own expert opinion. And my personal perspective, I admire Phil's push for authenticity because that is something that I try to apply in my work field. And I focus a lot on the process over the product. I mean, the product it's important, but how do we get to the product is a way to teach them to set a to set techniques to get their goals. And interactive model, I really go with it because we need to be mindful of classroom dynamics. In this scenario, we need to take care of our students' outcome in the language and also how they feel about that outcome. And ultimately, Phil's article is a call to action because it challenges us to rethink our approach to listening instruction and to create lessons that are more engaging, authentic, and effective. Thank you for listening.